Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Everything can change in a moment. One of the key factors of this, and we're going to get into it a little bit, it's not going to be a horribly long video, but it's the power of hope. And I wanted to share an example, an awesome one for me. It's one I've talked about frequently, but it was just a good example of how things can change almost literally overnight. And it's one of the key reasons why every day I wake up, I'm excited because I know today any number of things can happen. Any number of radical changes in my life can occur today. In one day's time, a lot of things can take shape and a lot of things can happen. So the power of hope, where this all comes into it, I've talked about my radio career a bunch. I call it a career. I think it's probably slightly, it was a number of years I did it, don't get me wrong, but started off at a small college station, KSBR, I'll never forget that. And I did about 3 years there. It was volunteer. It was 1 to 2 days a week, shifts, I should say, 1 to 2 shifts a week. And then eventually at some point, I had a girlfriend, and we sort of had a falling out, and she moved out to Tennessee, and we kind of kept talking, sent her a bunch of demos, and said, hey, if you can help me out in any way, shape, or form, I'll pack our stuff up in a U-Haul, and I will drive it out there. So, I don't know, 2-3 weeks later, she had talked to one of the radio dude in the small station, or the small town she lived in. It was out in Tennessee. WLOD, I'll never forget the station. And talked to him, played the demo, and he's like, yeah, guy's got a great voice. I can't promise him a job, but I'd definitely use him. And she tells me that, and bam, I pack up all my stuff and head on out the door. So literally 3 days after getting out there, land the job. The guy that was working there as the full-time DJ apparently had an all-night binger, was partying it up, got his paycheck, and went out and indulged in some things you shouldn't have, and then had a hard time staying awake during his shift. And he missed 2 commercial breaks. The boss drove up, saw him sleeping in the studio, and fired him on the spot. Called me and says, "Hey, can you come down?" Now, that in and of itself right there would be, wow, gee, Dan, your whole life changed 3 days into your trip in Tennessee. Yeah. And my whole focus was to get into radio. So, as of this point, I had my first paid radio gig. Now, that's not the part that I actually think was super cool, even though that's definitely overnight, things changed, and bam, here I am moving in the direction that I wanted to move in, actually getting paid to do radio. Now, a few radio stations later, few years later, I had WLOD, WATO, there was like a WYST, I think, another one. There was another one I worked that was a small little FM. And then eventually, my girlfriend worked at a costume shop that was in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. It's where we lived at the time. And the station that I wanted to work at was in Knoxville. Knoxville's classic rock, 103.5 WIMZ. I would love the day. I loved it. God, it was good times. Knoxville's classic rock. Good old times. Well, one of their main DJs, their afternoon drive guy, came in and wanted to get some costumes for a can thing, a food donation. They were going to donate cans of food, so they wanted to dress up in can costumes, a bunch of dudes dressing in dresses, and that was how they were going to try to promote it, which is super cool. Well, they happened to walk into my girlfriend's costume shop. There was other costume shops up in Knoxville. It was odd that they ended up in hers. They said, hey, work for IMZ, would you be interested in maybe supporting, this drive we're doing, maybe with some free donations? She says, here's the thing. If you get my boyfriend's demo tape to your boss, I'll donate these costumes for free. And that's what happened. And I literally contacted that guy every day and then got the job as a paid DJ, as the overnight guy anyway. It was overnight guy at Knoxville's classic rock, Market 69. It was a big step for me. And one day, things changed. And if you've noticed in that story, and this is just one component of my life, a lot of little things happened in one day. One day is all it takes. There's so many of us out there that maybe, for example, we've got a situation where a third party's crept in with the person we're interested in. That specific person, somehow they're suddenly dating a third party. Oh no! It's okay. Just as quickly as that third party happens, that third party can end. And as I've said before, a lot of great things can come from the idea of being in a relationship and being with someone that's maybe different than what you're used to, maybe experiencing that, oh my God, what I'm used to is way significantly better, or this is just totally not right. Like, a lot of things can be learned through going through a mistake in a relationship. Not really a mistake, but going through a relationship that doesn't necessarily work out long term. So just as quickly as things can change to the bad, things can also change to the good. They do it frequently. Doors can open. People can walk out just as you were walking down the street. They can walk out of the door, almost bump into you just as you're there. Excuse me, pardon me. Notice they've maybe got something in their hand that's got an emblem on it that reminds you of something. You're like, oh, wow, is that for such and such? Yeah, it's funny you should ask. Anything can happen in just a moment's notice. Lives can change at a moment's notice. How many of us are looking at the thing we're trying to manifest, and we keep looking at all the little things that have to happen? We keep looking at all the little components that need to occur. Specific person, for example. Maybe we're not hanging out. So now I'm imagining, crap, they need to get in touch with me somehow. That needs to happen. Then we need to go on some sort of first date. Like, they need to ask me out. I don't know how that's going to happen. Then we need to be able to spend more time together and really start to turn this relationship into something. And then we'll probably get intimate, right? And then things will really start to move along. Now, the reality of that particular example may not be anything at all like what we've got in our mind. Maybe just by saying, I want to be with this specific person and letting higher self, universe, source, everything else take care of it, we might get a different experience. Maybe that different experience might go something like, we're hanging out, like I'm at a place, your specific person walks in, they're in line with you, you say something to them, maybe they've got something interesting, maybe they're ordering something similar, or you're ordering something that they like. Oh, I like that too, that's really awesome. It's what I always get, the number 2? Yeah, me too, I always get that. Now all of a sudden we're in the same place. They're like, hey, you sitting with anyone? No, let's get together, let's chat. How's school going? How's such and such going? Bam, now all of a sudden we're kind of on that date, even though it didn't happen anything like you wanted it to. They didn't text you. They didn't have to ask you out on a date. But yet here you are in the same location having lunch together, which will lead to the other things. I didn't know how the radio job was going to happen. Personally, didn't care. But I knew it was going to happen. Why? Because I was going to make sure that's what happened. I wasn't going to stop until that's what happened. I had no idea how. And I didn't know IMZ was where I was going to end up. I would have been fine with any number of stations. IMZ was great. It was classic rock. Enjoyed it. Like, it was awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better station to be at in that market. But, again, it was not how I planned it. What you want to do is have that focus on where you're heading, what you're trying to do, not how you're getting there. Don't worry about the directions. Let your GPS guide you. Let your app on your phone show you the way, the step-by-steps. Let that play out. Don't try to second-guess Siri, or don't try to second-guess Google Maps. Accept what it's giving you and go and follow it. Know that your direction is what you typed in. You typed in the destination. That's where you're going. Let it play out. Don't try to look at things like, oh, it's so hard or so daunting. There's so many things that need to happen. No. There's one thing that needs to happen next. Whatever that is. You may not even know what it is, and you don't necessarily need to know. But keep that hope in your mind alive, that thought in your mind alive. It just takes one thing. One thing can happen today that can turn your entire life around. One thing can happen today that sends you running down the path towards your specific person or towards your manifestation. It's when we look at things and we feel all hope is lost, that we feel this is too large, that we instantly shoot ourselves in the foot and we ruin our chances at manifestation. By looking at it and saying, I can't do this, it's daunting, it's impossible, we're telling the universe, no, I don't want it, I want it to look like it's impossible. By saying I get where it's at, that's fine, that's where I'm going, I don't know how I'm getting there, but that's where I'm going, you will see things open up before you. You will be walking down the street and someone will walk out. You'll be heading in a situation, have a breakup occur, have someone move across the country, only to kind of rekindle back up again to help you out. So you pack all your stuff in a U-Haul and move out there and then get into your radio career. Yeah, didn't see that one coming. I knew I'd probably have to move to get into radio. That was sort of expected, kind of went with the territory. But I had no idea that's how that was all going to play out. Things will find you when you let it. Believe it's there. Believe that there's a chance. Have hope, if anything, that all it takes is one change to turn your entire world around. Hope is one of the most powerful forces alive, and it's gotten me through countless tough times. Understand that your future is yours. Yours to choose, yours to grab, yours to take charge of and run with. Have hope that the things that need to happen are going to happen. They do. When you look back at things that have successfully occurred in your life, did things work out? Right? They did. They always do. They always do. Even when it seemed darkest before dawn, even when it seemed crazy, things still worked out beautifully. Remember that. Remember that when it seems darkest before dawn. Remember that, dude, the sun's coming up in just a moment. It's okay. Everything's going to make sense soon. Wake up tomorrow, wake up today, and know that everything can change today. Maybe it won't, maybe it will, who knows? But it can. It can change in one day. Let today be the day. Let tomorrow be the day. Let every day you wake up be one step closer towards your goal. And when you wake up knowing that your goal is where you're going, and with the hope of knowing that you're going to get there, you've typed in the destination, Google's going to get you there. You may not recognize any of the directions you're on, but you know Google's going to get you there, or Siri. Trust in the process, have hope and faith, and without any doubt, keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye focused on the destination. Stay focused out where you're going, and that is where you'll get to. I hope this makes a difference. A lot of great shows coming your way. If you guys have any comments or show topics that you'd like to see me talk about, please drop those in the comments below, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys so much. It's Dan RadioStyle.